Hi, everybody. Welcome to Katrina Rasbold and Friends. And I need an intro video. So I'm going to be working on that. So we'll have some flash here coming up pretty soon. As you can see, I'm back here with my beautiful daughter, Delena. And we got overwhelming support for the last video we did together. It's everybody's favorite video. So we're going to do a lot more together, which I like. And I did line up a lot of people for interviews. So those will be popping up real soon too. I was excited for the overwhelmingly positive response I got to asking people if they'd come on here and talk to me. So
that's exciting.
It is. Some people say that they'll do it and then they just are never available. And other people are just like, yeah, no, that's not my thing. Like I asked Joe, because Joe is, he's so funny and so interesting. And he's like, I am not live streaming. And I said, well, we aren't live streaming either.
It's private.
And the reason why he said he wasn't into doing it is exactly what we're talking about today. He says it just sets off his anxiety to such a high degree that he can't do live streaming.
Yeah, it's because it is like, since there's not anybody in the chat right now, we just have theoretical chat, but it is unedited and it is just off the cuff, and it's not like a person-to-person interaction. Like, it's going to be up and it's going to be on, and whatever you said, if you don't edit it out, it lives there, and anybody can read it, and then I get it.
Yeah, I do too. So, but overwhelmingly positive response. So we'll have a lot of people coming on here with the interviews and that sort of thing. And Dad was going to do it, and he hasn't yet.
I noticed.
Yeah.
He was all pushy.
He even made a point of saying, I don't want to keep your adoring fans waiting. And then he kept my adoring fans waiting.
And then he was like, oh no, I have to be on video. Hold on.
I'm sure when it's time, it'll be time. So that's exciting. Anyway, so what we're talking about today is something you and I are intimately familiar with, and that's anxiety. And there's a few things we have to, like house cleaning, that we have to do from the beginning. You want to say the first one?
We're not doctors at all. You have a PhD, but it's not in medical anything.
I can doctor your religion, and that's it.
I can tell you so much about religions.
So much. So we're not medical doctors. We're not psychiatrists. We're not psychologists. We're not therapists. We are not qualified to tell you how to manage your anxiety, or we can't recommend medications or anything like that. So
no diagnosing, no prescribing, nothing.
Don't imagine we're getting out of our lane at all. We're just people who have anxiety.
We just live with it.
And so that's the position we're coming from as well. The other thing I want to get clear from the beginning is there is a difference in having anxiety, as in chronic anxiety, versus being anxious. Those are other things.
Yeah.
And what's interesting is that when I was probably late high school, getting into being in my 20s, one of the pet peeves I had was when people would say they were really anxious for something to happen. So they would say, I'm really anxious for Christmas. I wish it would hurry up and get here. And what they meant to say is they were eager.
Yeah, why are you worried about Christmas?
And that's what I always went to. And I even went to the dictionary to say, is there some alternative definition for anxious that I don't know, that's positive, that's just, I'm excited for it, I'm eager for it. And at the time, I haven't looked since then, but at the time there wasn't. At the time, it was just like feeling stressed or feeling overwhelmed, and that's what it is, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, for Christmas, it could also be because Christmas is so performative. And
that's true.
You have to be in charge of Christmas. As someone who now living on her own, and even when I had a partner, we didn't celebrate Christmas because we were the ones that had to be doing Christmas. So you have to do Christmas, and so maybe that plays into it. But I think when you're younger and saying you're anxious for Christmas, you're hearing your parents say they're anxious for Christmas.
Oh, that's a good point.
Know what that means.
But I mean, that was really just an example that people just say, that they're anxious when they're not feeling anxiety, they're feeling excitement. And interestingly enough, those two can sometimes feel like the same thing. because
Yeah.
there's that burgeoning feeling of room that you get.
Yeah, like stuff's about to happen and I have to be responsible for it in some way, whether that's a good way or a bad way.
And I think, speaking as somebody who gave my children the dreaded legacy of anxiety, like all 6 of them, and it coming from me and it coming from my parents and that sort of thing, um, I have to say that there's the anxiety that you feel for something that another person would feel anxious about, a normal person would feel anxious about, but it's magnified. It's bigger
Mm-hmm.
than what it's disproportionate to what's happening. And
Mm-hmm.
then there's the low grade anxiety that you feel all the time.
Yeah, just background radiation at all times.
So to me, that's kind of the definition. I don't have the DSM in front of me to really get into what the definition of anxiety is, but that's what I feel is just that there's those two very specific kinds where you get
Mm-hmm.
ratcheted up over something that's happening or going on or is going to go on.
Mm-hmm.
I think when something is going to happen, that's the worst time because
Yeah.
you're just sitting there waiting and waiting and waiting. And when you're in the moment that it's happening and you're anxious, it is going to pass and you're going to have some residual fallout and then that one's done. But then
Yeah.
there's also that low grade rumble that you were talking about. That's kind of like it's like your baseline of being ratcheted up is a little bit higher than other people.
Yeah. And that, because like we've got ADHD all up in there. And so that our emotions are tied a lot more to our nervous system. And so when your nervous system is activated at all times, you're always afraid of everything and you're hyper analyzing and you're hyper vigilant and all the time. And it's exhausting. Like it sucks, but you can't turn it off, especially when you know the bad parts. Like that episode of Scrubs. It comes up in other doctor shows where it's like, I have a baby. Oh no, he sneezed. This specific hyper specific illness is wrong. And they're like, no, your baby has a cold, but you're a doctor, so you know all the bad ones. And so when you live with anxiety and you know all of the things culturally that you should be worried about, versus people who live day to day and just live in their own world and don't have to think about that all the time. I do constantly have to be like, normal people don't think about this.
Well,
most of the time it doesn't work, but
what's funny is I didn't know normal people didn't think like that until you and Joe told me.
yeah.
Like, no, there's people that have quiet in their head. Like,
Yeah,
what?
there are people that do not have intrusive thoughts. There are people that can drive down the road and be like, I am driving down the road. There's a road sign. There's a turkey. Oh, I have parked my car. I'm done driving my road.
Wow.
Yeah, people get to live like that.
I cannot imagine what that would be.
I know, right? It's like the
That
people that
stillness.
they can't see anything when they imagine. There's certain people that have no visual imagination, and some people where it's words, and some people where it's nothing, and some people where it's black and white.
Well, our friend Debbie doesn't dream, or rather, she never remembers her dream.
There are some people that just straight out turn
Never.
off and then
She
reactivate.
and she's in her. I think she's 50 at least, and
Couldn't
she
tell you.
said that she has maybe 2 or 3 dreams in her entire life. That
Yeah,
she
I
can
know people
remember.
that, like, if they're sick or if some crazy, like they've eaten some crazy thing or something and they're in distress and they're trying to sleep, then they'll have a dream. But other than that, they just lay down and they turn off and they wake up at 6 a.m. And I'm like, how?
It makes you wonder if they are having dream amnesia, like they are dreaming, but they just immediately lose it when they wake up. Because I do that with dreams all the time. But in my case, I usually think I know I dreamt, but I have no clue what it was about.
It's like a race where I'm like, I can remember the themes, I can write down part of it, but then if I start to think, then it goes away.
Well, and that's why dream journals are a thing too.
Yeah, and then you read your dream journal and you're like, what was this? What did I think this was?
I used to think when I was a baby witch, that I was really good at dream interpretation. A lot of people would bring me their dreams, like, I'm this Dalai Lama or something, I wrote this, what does it mean? Oh, clearly this means blah, blah, blah. And they would say, oh my gosh, thank you. I never considered that. And somewhere along the line, I stopped being able to do that. I think my
Oh,
dreams
no.
started getting so squirrely that
Mm.
I just couldn't be bothered anymore.
I have really vivid, like intense dreams and
Me
like
too.
very movie like. And like I remember dreams from when I was like 6, and they were pretty intense, and they had effects on me. And then sometimes I also have recurring dreams, but like they're continuations.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I have lots of anxiety. You know what? Speaking of anxiety, about halfway through our relationship, I started having a lot of dreams that were like, I know that I had daily anxiety about our relationship, but like I would have dreams where something really innocuous would happen, and I would just mention it, and then dream partner would gaslight me about it. And I would be like, real life partner would never do this, but dream partner is doing this. And I would talk to her and be like, hey, this happened in my dream, and I know you wouldn't do that, and it's very weird.
So to be clear, when you say the relationship, you're not talking about our relationship. You
No,
mean
no,
the
no.
relationship you had with your long-term partner,
My ex for
your ex.
we were together for 10 years.
Well, and then she did end up gaslighting you.
Right. She had been actively lying, yeah.
Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm. Sometimes your anxiety is actually your intuition.
And that's so true. And the reason I was bringing up dreams at all too is because I don't know how yours, I mean, you've just kind of mentioned it, but a lot of people who have anxiety dreams.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't even get time off when you're resting or
Yeah.
sleeping. And I can't count the number of times in a week that I will wake up and just feel fight or flight and
Mm-hmm.
concerned and upset and have to talk myself down to say, that's not happening. Aren't you glad that's not happening? That's not even a real thing. And then I'll lingeringly still be pissed off about it for a minute and have to clear that away.
Mm-hmm.
It's insane.
Yeah, I have really, really intense hormonal dreams. So, like, kind of like in the ramp up to before and after my period, I'll have anxiety dreams. I used to have a recurring dream, and it was always different ones. But I would have a dream where I was in a situation where I was in charge, like the mine, which was me working alone in a trailer, and a serial killer would appear and do something, and I had to deal with that. And a lot of it would be like I have apprehended him, and then suddenly at the end of me apprehending him, I would be like, wait, I'm 5'6" and this is an adult man. Um, and I'm not actually in charge, even though in this second I'm in charge. And then the whole rest of the dream would just me being like, now what?
I had two recurring dreams for many years, and I know I've told you about these before, but one of them stopped,
Is
and
it the one about
it
the house?
about the house. And this was not really an anxiety dream. It was just a weird dream where I would dream constantly, and I'm talking 3 or 4 times a week, that I would dream that I went back to a house where I used to live. And it was always a house where I literally lived in this lifetime, that
Mm-hmm.
I lived there in my first marriage, or I lived there, at some point. And it's the same exact house. There's other people living in it. And I knock on the door and tell them that I used to live there. And would they mind if I took some pictures? Or, if I've got people with me, can I show my husband? Can I show my kids? And they're
Mm-hmm.
always, I mean, there's some certain things that are always true about the dream. They're always very welcoming. Nobody was like, oh no, and slammed the door in my face. They're always like, oh gosh, come in. And then they'll say, I think you left some things here. And they would take me to a room or a basement or a cabinet. And when I got there, everything I ever lost in my entire life was there. And we're talking piles of sunglasses and
Mm-hmm.
books and things that people borrowed and didn't return. And everything I ever lost was there. And that would pretty much be the end of the dream. And so I saw a psychiatrist at one point in getting therapy and this sort of thing. And she said, what you need to do is After you have the dream, I want you to meditate on that house, the next day. Meditate on that house and think about the lessons that you learned while you were there. And I want you to journal those lessons and think about how you're applying those lessons now. And I thought, oh God, so much fucking homework. Oh my God. But I did it and the dreams went away. And the other one is the animals, which was just crazy because I would dream again 3-4 times a week that I'm living in my house, whatever my house happened to be at that time, that I discover that there's an upstairs or a basement to the house. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it's an upstairs attic and sometimes it's a basement that I didn't know was there before. And I go in there and there are tanks and cages filled with animals.
Oh, I remember this. Yeah, like
there's mice, there's rats, there's gerbils, there's lizards, there's fish, there's every animal you could ever keep in a cage or an aquarium or something like that. And it just goes on for as far as the eye can see. But these animals have been neglected. And so their cages are horrid and they're malnourished and they're, they bred like crazy. And so I would get overwhelmed and be trying to take care of these poor animals that once I see them, I remembered, yeah, these are my animals. They were there. I just forgot about them. Mm-hmm. And I would spend my whole night trying to get ahead of this. And just one time, I forced myself to keep going back to sleep until I cleaned all those cages, fed all of those animals, and got them all where they needed to be. And then I never had the dream again. But I have weird anxiety dreams all the time. Mm-hmm. Last night, I dreamed, now this will be meaningful to you. I dreamed that we were moving from this house. We were happy to be moving into a different house, but it was a smaller house and we had to get rid of things. And Dad, your dad, was in the front yard cheerfully building a bonfire and throwing my things into it.
Yeah.
And so proud and
relatable.
Just knowing that I'm so happy. Look, I'm taking care of it. I didn't even go through this box. I just put it on the fire. And he kept trying to get me to come out and look at how big the fire was.
Mom, your dream makes me so anxious.
I know. I know. And I went in and I was looking at you kids' pictures and saw that some of them had been pulled off.
Yeah.
And I knew that they were being burned. And I just woke up in such palpitations. And I was so furious with him. And in the dream, he was so happy.
Dude, my pulse is so fast listening to your dream.
Huh?
My pulse is so fast listening to your dream.
He was excited. He was happy. He was helping. He was just, I did this so you didn't have to. I know how hard it is for you to go through your things. So I did it for you. And that's not a dream. That's a nightmare. Because you and I, and a lot of people, some people may know this, some people may not. We're both a little on the hoardy side. Yeah. And, we're collectors. And I collect my things for a reason. And so, of course, when and I'm sure this is related to the actual fire. Yeah. Where I lost everything, basically. And so that's an underlying fear, of course. And it was just really weird. I woke up feeling a little bit weird toward Dad. And he's like, what? What did I do? Like, you didn't do anything. I'm just
but he might though.
And you know what's sad is I told him what happened. He went, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry." I'm like, "You didn't do it." He goes, "I feel like I did something."
Yes, he would.
He said, "I made you have a dream somehow. I somehow gave you the seed for that to have that dream. I'm so sorry for it." And he was just really devastated. So that was really anxious. And I have medication for depression. Joe, I believe, takes medication for anxiety. And Nix takes medication for anxiety. So different people that we know have had really good results from finding the right medication to take for anxiety. And anxiety is something I have not personally medicated for. I've just medicated for depression.
I have once. No, twice. Because you gave me St. John's wort when I was super little.
Oh, that was bad. That was all bad.
The same thing happened. Yeah, the same thing happened with when they tried to give me regular anxiety medication, I just started within a week, had really, really vivid, awful nightmares.
Oh gosh. I
Yeah.
took I now I know that the Wellbutrin that I take helps a little bit for anxiety. I can feel that it changes
Mhm.
biochemically the anxiety reaction I'm having. And if I happen to forget to take my medication in a day, my big giant wad of medication, and most of that's supplements like magnesium and potassium and shit like that. But
Mhm.
I can feel it. I can feel it the next day.
Yeah. Well, that
And
one I think is an SSRI, which like tells your receptors to receive the good, and because our receptors don't inherently receive a lot of the dopamine, and so it wakes them up, and it's like, hey, take this.
so that's something else I want to talk to you about, even aside from our topic of anxiety. Can you unpack a little bit that relationship with dopamine? I don't mean
Just
to
in
put you on the
general.
spot. In general.
So dopamine is when people talk about willpower, they're talking about literally the regulation of dopamine. Your body produces dopamine to make your brain do stuff. And when you have clinical depression and ADHD and dozens of other syndromes in the DSM, there is a wiring within your brain that does not receive the normal amount of dopamine. Now, we are not in a point in society where it is easy to acquire dopamine that isn't manufactured and cheap and feel bad, like, casual games that are just gambling and that kind of stuff. But and just smartphone scrolling in general is engineered to give you false dopamine, which is how you get addicted, basically. But we, with our ADHD, do not manufacture and receive dopamine in the same way. And we process it in a way that we search for novelty and different dopamine. But even thinking about doing that gives us the same amount of dopamine hit. And when we are without the dopamine that we would be receiving normally from a healthy brain, you get shit like executive dysfunction. Like, I can't get off the couch, even though I'm sitting here holding my phone. I'm thinking about how bad I need to get off the couch, and my body is doing something executively that I do not have control over. And so the regulation of dopamine allows you to be like, oh, I got to go do the dishes. And then you just do it instead of thinking how hard about how you have to do the dishes. And so when you get into, I'm not as like versed on like the direct medication purposes, but like SSRIs, you receive serotonin, which is a friend of dopamine. They're both happy chemicals, but one of them is task related and one of them is executive related. And the SSRIs make you receive the serotonin so that you can do stuff with it. Sorry, my lunch alarm is over. and so SSRIs help you receive the dopamine you have, and stimulants give you the dopamine that you don't have. And so when you have stimulants, are responsive to stimulants, you're getting the stuff that you should have had, that should have been in your brain. And that's why you don't get high and tweak out. You just sit down and your brain is like, wait, I have all this dopamine. Oh my God. and your brain can function kind of, it's not going to be the same. You still have ADHD and your brain still works the way it works, the way it's wired. But you put some glasses on, you grabbed a crutch and you can move. You have a disability aid now.
Wow. Is there any good dopamine other than what your feeble little brain can produce on its own?
I mean, you get dopamine from like doing fun connective things with people and like completing tasks, but the world is so oppressive that we're robbed of it. Like, if I was out hanging with some sheep and I didn't have to read the news all the time and I was just with my sheep for 6 hours a day, I might play with a stick for a while, but I'm still watching the sheep. I don't have to I don't have to get up off the couch and wash my dishes because I'm busy watching the sheep. And so like our brain evolutionarily we're like the hunter-gatherers. We are seeing the differences in the bushes, pattern recognition. We are seeing the animal going across the thing and we're paying attention. We're sitting up until 4 a.m. weaving by the fire because somebody has to be awake to watch the village, you know?
Interesting.
Like
So
we're just a different neurotype.
do you think that because now, I kind of hesitate even saying this, but I'm going to anyway. So we have the impression that right now things are really, really bad in terms of sociopolitically, in terms of culturally, in terms of connectedness, in terms of self-isolation, post-COVID, when we found out that we really can survive without going out there very much. Do you think, and I say I hesitate to say that because that's our impression and our feeling. But when we look back on human history, there's been many times where things were way, way worse. But
well, do you want to finish? Is there more?
Sorry. Yeah, but I was going to go a different way, so I'm going to bookmark that. Go ahead.
Okay. So there's a difference between commerce and capitalism. And capitalism thrives on the exploitation of the lower classes. And we are actively being oppressed. And usually, like in commerce, and if you were a serf in the 1600s, like it wasn't great. You didn't have healthcare, but you also got to live your day and you had your kids and you lived with your kids and you got to watch your kids, but also you knew everybody in the village. You were friends with everybody in the village. Everybody in the village did something that helped the village. And we're all isolated. There's 30 people, 30 people within 25 feet of me right now. I'm in an apartment building in the middle of tons and tons of people. I don't know any of them. I could tell you probably approximately how many people live in the units next to me. And that's it. You know, like I could tell you maybe what they do. I could tell you maybe when they go to work. I don't know that they're going to work. Maybe they're going to school. But we're completely isolated and we're not allowed to sleep at the times that our body wants us to sleep. We have to sleep at the time society says we have to sleep. We have to sleep for how long society says we have to sleep for. And we have to do all of our chores and all of our errands around work. And so we are not allowed to be a human creature. We have to conform. So
I agree with all that. Also, when we're talking about the serfs and that sort of thing, we were sold the American dream, which is to believe that if you go to work and work a full-time job, even making minimum wage, that's the reason why it's called minimum wage or above, that you're going to be able to afford your home. You're going to be able to have a family. You're going to be able to get a mortgage. And that, along about the time that you were probably in middle school or so, that stopped being the case.
Yep.
And so the thing with serfs is they never were taught to want anything better.
Yeah.
You know, they always knew their expectations that were placed on them. They always knew what to expect from their lives. And so it may not be as good as the Lord of the Manor and that sort of thing, but they knew. Whereas we're taught still, if you just work hard enough, you can get it. Whereas the feedback from the world is, no, you can't.
Only these 12 people get it.
So it's like this weird juxtapose. It's gaslighting for the most part. Yeah.
No, actively. Yeah.
But the direction I was going to take it was, do you think, given all of that, it feels like there are more people with anxiety in the world now. And I'm not sure if there's more people who have anxiety or if anxiety is just more recognized and the spectrum of it identified more, or if it's both.
So I think it's the first one. I think it's that we are pushed to like our limits, our physical and mental limits, and forced to deal with it. And It's a lot easier to get anxiety. We're exposed to the horrors of everywhere all at once all the time. And we're isolated at the same time. And we don't get to build community. Like, I couldn't go outside and knock on my neighbors' doors, and like maybe a couple of them would want to be friends, but most of them would ask me to get off their fucking lawn. You know? Like,
And they won't let you grill there. If you were
no,
asking
you
them,
could have a propane grill.
I
You
was
just
going to
can't
say,
have
if you
charcoal
asked them to
smoke.
be your friend and you had a rack of ribs on the, they would be your friend because we bond around food.
Yeah. But you can't go to the park and make a bunch of food for people, because then people start talking about permits and crowd
And what's
gathering
in
and
the
that kind of
food?
thing.
What are you getting out of
Yeah,
this?
you have to provide food
Health
safety
inspections.
permits and health inspections and all kinds of stuff, which are very good and we should have and are very safe and helpful. But
Yes, RFK, if you're listening, we do want that.
yeah. But yeah, like the inroads are 90% of those are religion, and many people would rather step away from that right now.
Yeah.
But also there's a big push towards the need for that, and the wrong people can pick that up and run with it and take people with them. But it's awful, because you talk about it and you just feel stuck, and then you're like, well, now I have anxiety and I'm in my room alone.
When I was growing up, there was the big fear of the nervous breakdown. That was the term that was used, was having a nervous breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
And if you were headed down that path, they would say you had nerves. And of course, we all got nerves, but the idea was, well, she takes medication for her nerves.
Yeah.
And everybody had a couple of aunts or some cousins who took medication
Hysterical
for their nerves.
women. Yeah.
And, so it was there.
Yeah.
And
Well, disability was hidden until the 70s and maybe the 80s. Probably like 87 was when.
That was never seen as an issue. If you had to be, I would say, contained for your nervous breakdown or your, I always pictured that when I was growing up, because of the kind of Jane Austen ideals and stuff, as you went away somewhere for your nervous condition. I always pictured that you were wearing like a really fancy white linen shirt that buttons up the neck.
Like a tuberculosis patient.
And you're sitting by the lake with the swans reading,
Yeah.
I didn't find out until later about shock therapy and all the other things.
It bad.
It was all bad. It
Lobotomies and stuff, all kinds of stuff.
And so it was there, but now we have different terminology for it and different outcomes and different
patience.
Management.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you do? What are your coping strategies?
I do a lot of stimming. I've got rocks. I've got they're loud, so I don't have any of my clicky toys in here. But lots of stimming, lots of breathing. I've gotten myself to the point where if I'm getting overwhelmed and I'm starting to have a meltdown, which is an autistic meltdown, not a anxiety meltdown, just like overstimulated. It's different. I've gotten to the point where I clench and I just and then I have to restart the program.
Do we do that with laboring women, or at least we used to when I taught childbirth classes. If they were really starting to feel, because the idea is the neuromuscular disassociation, where we get the entire body to rest and relax while the uterus contracts, to let it contract more efficiently. But to do that, you've got to have some kind of mental gatekeeping on the pain. And so we would, if the woman was just really having trouble relaxing her leg or relaxing her arm, we would have her fully stretch it out and make it really tense and then let it go. And
that's a meditation technique.
Yeah, she would get better relaxation.
Yeah, one of the things, if you can't, in yoga, if you can't get something to untense or clench, you squeeze everything as hard as you possibly can, and then you let it all go.
I think that's just the metaphor for sometimes things have to get worse before they get better.
It's scary though.
It is scary. It is. And, different people choose not to medicate for anxiety for different reasons. You have the reason that you had not good outcomes when you medicated before. And
and a lot of just medical trauma in general.
It's really hard because these situations are so unique to each person, and you've got to go through to find the cocktail of how much, what type of depression medicine do I need, and how much of it, and how much ADHD medicine do I need, and what kind. There's just, you got to have that perfect cocktail. And I know that does happen. I know there's people that find that magic pill that just smooths everything out for them. And for me,
go ahead.
No,
you have to trial, and then when you have to take a shower and that's too many steps, the idea of going to a doctor, waiting for your appointment, having your appointment, being told, no, you're not sick, going to another doctor, having your appointment, they said, I think you have this, try this medication first. It's not what we know is going to help you. It's what we think is going to help your fake issue that you have. And then okay, so that one didn't work. So you do have the thing you think you have. So take this one. Oh, that one doesn't work. Try this one. Try this one. And when I can barely wash my hair, the idea of doing
and a lot of those medications have load times. So they're not even going to work for 2 to 4 weeks.
Or awful side effects too. Like I got Visceral, which is a vertigo medication. It was given to me for my anxiety, and it made me crazy dizzy to the point that I couldn't drive, and I started having heart palpitations, and I had to stop taking it. And it's a mess. The healthcare system is so scary. And then you have anxiety, and you have to fix your anxiety with the healthcare system.
Now, as you know, I have a pretty decent life. Things are pretty relaxed and chill, and it's okay. It's a good now. It wasn't for the
You've landed
60 years before that. But everything's pretty chill. And so I was just not feeling right, and my my healthcare provider suggested the Wellbutrin, and at first I was like, no, I'd really rather work through the mental challenges I've had. And she says, well, for one thing, if it's chemical, you aren't going to work through it. That's just not going to happen.
It's not going to stop.
For another time, and this was terrifying, another thing, she said, you aren't going to live long enough to work through all the trauma that you've been through. You're just not. And I was like, okay, give me the pills. And so I went on them. Then I lost my insurance, as we Americans are sometimes want to do. And when I lost my insurance, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get the Wellbutrin anymore. And so I tapered off of it. And Dad finally just kind of grabbed me gently by the collars and said, look, you find some way to get that medication and take it. And I can tell, I'm not me. This isn't me. This is something extra that is affecting me. And I don't know what does it, It could be a number of different toxicities that I breathe or that I eat or whatever. It could just be something inherently chemical to me.
It's your ADHD.
It feels terrible. Yeah. And it feels contaminated. And especially when you're having those reactions that you know are disproportionate. You're like, why am I sobbing?
Yeah.
About, the chicken being a little bit burned. Why is that a deal? And it's just uncomfortable. It's really uncomfortable. The idea of being on medication for the rest of my life is uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But that's worse.
Yes. Yeah.
So I just have my grounding rocks. That's my gig. I just hold those basalt black stones and just...
Oh, wait. Sorry, the flash, and it looks really good.
Is that a labradorite?
Yeah, it's whatever one's from Julie.
Oh, it's a nice one.
It's the peacock something. There it is.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just hold them and I just picture all that junk just going into them, and it helps for a little bit. It's pretty good. The sprays sometimes help.
Mm.
Um, so because of the herb in them and the oils in them, they'll just chill me right out. But those are the only things I do in addition to that. And
I
sometimes
do
just
burn
talk.
sage
Oh, the sage,
because
definitely.
you've Pavlov dogged us into calming.
Yeah.
But I do notice I get really anxious when I feel really enclosed and when something is stinky or if I'm sitting in the sun. The three of those get me really overstimulated really quickly.
Wow.
And it comes out as like anger and irritability. And it took me a long time to be like, oh, I just don't like the feeling on my body that's happening. Um,
So, what are some other triggers for you?
um, the anxiety is just kind of my brain just does some stuff. Like I have the kind of just hyper thinking, and I have knowledge of things that could go wrong, and I have intrusive thoughts, and they're just outside of my control. And I did read a thing pretty recently that was somebody just being like, this is the equivalent of a dog chewing on its foot because it can't think of anything else to do. And
Mm.
so that helps. It's just like, oh, I'm just chewing on my foot right now. What can I do that's different? Or you treat yourself like an animal in a zoo. And zoos are really important. They're really important for conservation. Most of the accredited zoos really, really care about their animals and they study them. And they have to give them enrichment because these animals can't go out into the wild and smell cool stuff. And so you have to be like, what have I done for myself for enrichment lately? And try to treat yourself like a human animal that needs to be cared for.
We do kind of, when we're feeling anxious, turn into that rat that's just leaning on that lever to get the pellet.
Mm-hmm. Just
And
like,
so,
please.
like, let me look at what are your recommendations I do for this Amazon?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm the one that like I'll pull up YouTube
Mm-hmm.
and I'll be really critical and shitty about it. And I'll say, I'm really resent YouTube's algorithms that think they know me. You don't know me, YouTube. Who do you? Ooh, look, another cult show.
Yeah.
So, sometimes just getting outside of my head for a little bit helps me.
Mm-hmm.
Or talking to dad, because dad is just a talker,
Yes.
and he has his unadmitted autism. One of the things it does is it just links this fascinating trail of thought that
Mm-hmm.
nobody can follow. And so talking to him, I just have to, if I'm feeling really anxious, I'll just say, okay, here's what I'm thinking about right now, and go. And he'll just start talking, and I can kind of get in the flow of what he's saying,
Mm-hmm.
and it takes me off of the track where I was.
Yeah.
So he's kind of, I think he's my stemming tool.
We both, I think, are really big audio stimmers, which is where like we just like having somebody who speaks with a measure of authority about something very interesting, um, and they're really enthused about it. And so like that's why I'm so into the podcast, because I don't have dad in my living room to ask him stuff. But you've like seen me, I'll be in your living room and I'll ask dad something. And I'll be like,
Well,
dad
and
might
you're
know
both
this.
Scorpios, so you speak the same language.
Yeah, our trains go in West Coast train, but but we both like I'll just start talking about Japan, and then he's like, I'm learning Japan from a completely different angle. And I can be like, that's crazy. I learned about Japan when I was 12 from anime. It different, isn't that fun? But I still know most of what you're talking about, and like can bring up stuff that you don't know about, and it's fun.
This is probably, I don't know how much of this is ego and how much of it is a type of neurodiversity, but when people start like Japan, when
Mm-hmm.
people start talking about things that I know nothing about, I want to leave the room.
Oh, I do that really,
Do
really
you?
bad. That's how. Do you remember that meeting I told you about that got hijacked
Yes.
and was two and
Yes,
a
I
half
do.
hours long? That's most of what that meeting was. I was like, this has nothing to do with us.
Hmm.
I am not allowed to do anything in this meeting except sit here, and Lily's computer isn't working, so Lily's using my computer to run the meeting that I do not get to participate in, and I have to sit here for 2 hours with CEOs and financial execs for something that I have nothing to do with. And I crashed out so hard at that meeting, like in the bad way.
Well, and that had fallout for you too.
Yeah, for a long time.
So one of the things that I have had an ongoing issue with is that. So I love silence and I love the stillness of silence, but that need for stimulation. And so I'll be in a conversation with somebody like your dad and Jen, your Aunt Jen. Fantastic and interesting people. I love them both completely, but they have a shared history.
Yeah.
And they are so much alike. And they'll start talking about things that happened to them that I don't know anything about. I can't contribute to this. And I think it's just that I'm not getting stimulated because I can't understand a lot of what they're saying or relate a lot to what they're saying. And I'll just zone out and I'll get really anxious about it and just have to scroll my phone or do something to stay in my body because I'm just not relating to what's going on around me. I used to get that a lot at concerts because Paul, my first husband, and I liked very different kinds of music. And so he would take me to concerts, which, yay, thank you very much. But if I don't like the band, I want to chew my foot off. I just feel trapped. Like this is going to be an hour and a half concert I have to sit through, and these guys suck.
Yeah.
And it's hard when they're bands other people like Rush and Rat and Michael Schenker and, everybody, oh my God, this is so great. They're so amazing. I'm like, this sucks.
Rush seems like the kind of band that would play, well, maybe not as bad as Pearl Jam, but like they would just like start playing the beginning of a song and play the beginning of the song for like 3-4 minutes and then play the song.
Yeah.
That sounds hard.
Yeah. And so it's, and people, of course, from my generation and from the generation right after me are like, how can you not like XYZ, band? No, I just don't. I just don't.
Yeah.
So that's how I cope is I take Wellbutrin and I spray myself and I rub rocks and I try to get your dad to distract me. So
I rub rocks. I burn sage, but that's less about the sage and a lot more about when we were loud and rowdy and anxious, you would burn sage. So that's what that's
that
about.
was for me, by the way.
Yeah. It's Pavlovian child rearing is what it is. And that about Pavlov and the dogs, right?
I do.
Okay, cool. And I will have a video playing on my phone, a video playing on my TV, and I will be doing something on my iPad. And they might be completely unrelated or they might be related, but I will fill the noise in my head because I can't be left to my own devices because of my intrusive thoughts and that kind of thing. Not in like a hurt myself way, just in a everything sucks way.
There's times that I'll be here, I spend a lot of time at my desk doing client works. This is where I paint. This is where I do diamond art. This is where I watch my shows during the day. So I'm at my desk an unhealthy amount of time. And there's times that I'll just be here working and I'll sense somebody behind me. And, in my house, that might be a ghost or it might be a person. And it'll be Dad there with sage just over. I'm like, what?
Did I do something?
What is this about? Just seemed like you did it.
That's funny.
Well, do you have anything else to add before we wind down? Any thoughts for people that might wonder if they have anxiety or if the level of anxiety they're feeling is normal or what that looks like?
If you have someone to talk to, you should. Don't turn your friends into therapists if they don't want to be. But there's a thing that says it takes 8 minutes to help you out of a hole. Like if you're in a really dark place and you're dealing with it, talking to somebody for as little as 8 minutes can help you move tracks. And yeah, you should talk to people. And isolating yourself when you're anxious just makes it worse.
It does. And you and I do paw touches. That's a Corby thing. We do paw touches.
Yeah, I call them paw touches as well. I even send gifs of cats being like, hey, where are you? They were, hey.
And it's just kind of knowing that you have witnesses.
Yeah.
And that somebody's there.
Mm-hmm.
And that you can connect in that way. That's what I really wanted for this channel.
Mm-hmm.
Was to have even just a set, not necessarily a set group of people, but a group of people that feel heard and they feel seen, and not in a bad way. You know, sometimes we feel seen in a way that's uncomfortable, but that they're recognized. Hey, I see you and I still think you're okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I there's value for you.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of my goal for the channel. I hope that it blossoms into that, but I appreciate you sharing it with me.
Yeah, I'll be here whenever
Do
you
what?
invite me. I'll be here whenever you invite me.
Well, don't wait to be invited. Say, hey, I got something I want to talk about. Let's do a show.
I don't have any of those yet. I'll think of them.
Okay.
I'm all shy.
That's all right. I'll pull you along for the time being. So thank you, Delena, for sharing that. That was really candid and really
off topic.
Vulnerable. Appreciate you saying all that.
Yeah, thank you.
And if anybody has their experiences with anxiety, we're going to be haunting the comments and checking out what you say and replying. So nice things only, please. Not that your experience has to be nice, but you don't have anxiety, you're just stupid, or anything like that.
Yeah, no, I definitely have anxiety since I was little.
Yes, and
that's how you know it's chemical.
A really quick addition to that is when I was raising you, we didn't have terminology for that.
Yeah.
And we didn't know we weren't taught how to parent that. We were taught, how to manage the willful child and that sort of thing.
But
James Dobson and assholes like that taught us how to manage.
Like my 7-year-old has stomach aches so bad that she can't get off the couch, and she can work herself up high enough to get a fever so that she can go home just so that she doesn't have to be here anymore.
And it just makes I'm devastated. It makes me just sob that I didn't know how to manage that back then and how to make your experience easier and kinder and how to help you navigate all of that. I mean, to the point that this is exposure, and I apologize in advance, but I mean, you went to professionals at your school and said, hey, I'm having a problem with this. I need some help.
Hey, can I please see a counselor?
And nothing.
And no, a 14-year-old having the presence of mind to be like, hey, I need to talk to a counselor is not enough for a high school to refer them to a counselor, which is pretty awful. Yeah.
That's pretty bad. That is pretty bad. Mm-hmm. And so, I feel terrible that I didn't have the information that I needed to be able to effectively parent a child with anxiety, a child with autism, a child with ADHD. And, the answer back then was, just give them some Ritalin, they'll be fine. They'll stop jamming.
Yeah, we'll deactivate them for 6 or 7 hours so that they sit still. And then now kids have like little foot pedals that are quiet, and they have like silent stimming stuff, and they just get to go be like the people who are like my level, where like they're not particularly intrusive except for the talking. My talking is really intrusive, but like they just get to vibe in the room, they don't have to go somewhere that are at my level, but I needed to have gone somewhere.
I'm happy for those kids.
Yeah.
And for the parents who do know how to manage that, I didn't. Yeah. And I'm sorry that you had to go through that. That was pretty devastating, and I'm very sorry.
Thank you.
On that happy note, we're going to say goodbye for this time.
It's much better now.
Well, my goal is to be a good parent moving forward. Okay. So thank you, everybody. Tell us what you think in the comments, and we'll be watching for you. Take care, everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.